And welcome to the first turn. I'm Hyena,
I'm Llama.
and we
I'm
are joined
Dracoya.
today by a special guest.
Dracoya.
There you go. um, we're a week out here from Adepticon, kind of wrapped up. We've got some time to digest it and have it settled. This is part two of our Adepticon recap. Last week we talked more about the start of the con, the preview event, all the stuff from Games Workshop and stuff. Today we were going to talk about how the con itself went. Me as just an attendee, and you guys, taught classes and ran booths and stuff. How did that go?
Well, for me, it was probably the biggest shift. I had always just attended the cons as a regular nerd and usually didn't sign up for much so that I could just drift around and experience it. And this was very different. So this year I was doing two things. One, I got to teach classes for the first time for me at Adepticon, which was fantastic. I almost got off to a rough start with it. There was this attendance sheet they were requiring all the teachers to have. And of course I forget it to bring it the first day.
But you went and picked it up the night before.
Well, so yeah, I went and picked it up the night before and then left it like on my nightstand, did not bring it. And so all I did is just wrote down everybody's name who attended and then went and filled it out. We had to turn it in by Sunday. It's fine. The other thing was I had planned on having two different busts. One was going to be this sort of Catman that I was going to do for my texture class. And then the other was going to be just like the practice head Fred, this very human or elf head to do skin tones with. Well, I just brought all cat heads. So doing the skin tones was interesting with that. So we just worked on the musculature. He had shoulders and biceps and abs, and we made that work. Both classes went great. Students just always eager to learn and pick your brain. And I found out it was really a lot of what I had been doing anyway when we used to do our paint nights at a local store. And we'd have people who were brand new into the hobby show up. And I realized I was offering all this information that I didn't even know I had to help a beginner translate it to application. And so that got me interested in teaching. Obviously, we've been affiliates with Dracoya for a while. And so she has a lot of connections to people at these conventions and put honey in the ear of a few people. And then I was able to get in to teach a couple classes. So
I told them that I wouldn't even take the bigger booth unless they could guarantee Llama classes.
Just really dangling them above. Yeah.
I'm not above like blackmail.
Yeah, so that was new for me. And then of course I worked at the Dracoya booth and we were crazy busy from open to close. And so I'll be honest, I feel like I kind of didn't get to go to Adepticon this year because it was still Adepticon. But I mean, between the three of us who were working predominantly behind the booth, we had combined maybe an hour total during each day where we could get out and see the con. And it was usually just someone was running up to get food or to throw out some cardboard. And so it's really busy on the booth end, at least our booth was. And so I don't know, but it was still great. It was still a fantastic experience. It flew by. And I look forward to the next time. There were like some learning things from both my teaching experience and from stuff we did behind the booth. But overall, just a fantastic experience.
And you spent so much time teaching me. That's how I also knew that you were going to be a really good teacher. You spent so much time teaching me. So there's this one particular bust that I have from one of the other companies I represent, Stella Argentis. And I was really excited. And Llama was like, oh my God, I think this is the best thing you've ever painted. But Llama helped me a lot of these different steps along the way. And now that I know how to really push myself to the next level, I think I could probably do it again. And what made my whole weekend was the owner of Chimera and one of the owners of Aradia. Somebody had come up to them and said, oh, do you know who painted that bust? And they were naming artists, and they're like, well, maybe it's this person and that person. And then they're like, Dracoya, do you know who painted this bust? I'm like, oh, you did. And they were like, what? You did?
Yeah.
First, ouch, but also thanks.
Right. And that was a huge compliment to me as well, because it was like I found that I'm presenting this stuff in a way that's super relatable. because even before teaching the class, I did a couple of trial runs. I taught at a store, and then I did some online tutoring with a friend of ours, who goes by Chimera, obviously, but spelled differently. But he's a brand new painter, but he decided to start this journey on Twitch. So he's got all these people coming with him on this journey, and super eager, super hungry to learn. And so I did a couple of these one-on-ones with him, and it was the same thing. I tried this stuff out. The application, he picked it up right away. He even sat at the booth and painted for a while. And I was like, what are you working on? He's like, more skin tones. Ever since you taught me how to do this thing, now I'm just like addicted to doing. And so, there was market improvement. His head that he was painting looked way better than the first attempt. So,
and Chimera with the CH is also one of my affiliates. And so what I've been focusing on as a company for this last year is having quality affiliates that I can really invest time and money into long term. I know that some other paint stores or paint brands, they just, give out paint willy-nilly to everyone and their sister cousin. I really try to handpick a lot of the affiliates that I have, so that I can grow them as artists. Maybe they want to become better painters. Maybe they want to become a more popular Twitch streamer. Maybe they want to teach at classes. Maybe they want to just focus on conventions and hanging out cons. Whatever their goal is, I try to connect with my affiliate and make that happen. Unlike a lot of the other brands that I've seen where they just give out codes and free paint, I mean, that's all nice, but I want to see people's dreams come true. And I think that, that goes beyond just giving them free crap and a code. I want to see people grow, and I really want to bring our hobby back to the artists. I've noticed that there's a big shift away from artists in the last few years. You know what I'm saying, Llama? And so now I'm trying to bring the hobby back to an artist level and really focus on the individuals, not just making money as a company.
Well, yeah, and one of the ways you had talked to myself and some other affiliates about it was you were looking to kind of be like an agent for these artists, and which is a very unique approach. So you're establishing fewer total relationships or partnerships, but really going to bat for them, getting them booked, and every con that reaches out to you that wants you to have a booth there, stores that reach out to you that want to start carrying the products you distribute, you have always like thrown in this little bit where it's like, well, hey, what if I send an artist out there one weekend in June and they can come teach a thing and help push the product? And they usually jump at that. And so that's very unique. I haven't heard of too many places that are doing that like you're doing. That said, I don't have inside info to many, but that has certainly been unique, because now I'm getting to go teach at a bunch of places, and Jamie, one of your affiliates, is going to get to teach at a bunch of places. And yeah, so on your end, you've been on our show either at or after Adepticon every year since this podcast started.
I know.
And you have been, this is your 4th time on the show.
Yeah.
And you have been in 4 very different places in your life for each of these. And so what was different about this Adepticon for you?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess this Adepticon, I'm officially the distributor for all of these brands. So last year I was working at the Chimera booth talking about how I had just become the new US distributor. But now I got to really act as the US distributor in a giant booth. And I don't just have Chimera under my belt. I actually have 7 different brands underneath my belt. And let me tell you, that's been a big balancing act to try and not play favorites between all my children, when I may or may not have some favorites. But and then how do you take this 20 by 20 booth, which is a ginormous booth, but then you have to not play favorites, but also make it to where everyone has space for however much or however little products they have individually. It's a lot to balance. It was very stressful. And we didn't even know that we were going to get this 20 by 20 booth. We thought we were going to get a 10 by 20, something that was half that size. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to fit 7 different brands in this 10 by 20 booth. I just don't know how that's gonna work. So I was very lucky that we got this 20 by 20 last minute, but I don't feel like I got to plan it as well as I really wanted to because it was so last minute. So I'm even more looking forward to next year and seeing everything that I can achieve. I mean, the last year's been incredible. We've seen an astronomical amount of growth in the last year. I've gained affiliates. We've started a YouTube channel between myself and some of my affiliates, including you, Llama. And the YouTube channel has been taking off, really focusing on tutorials. And I've been working with Chimera on their new product Velvet line, which has been so fun to use. And then I'm still working with all of these other brands as well, pushing them forward to the next level.
So that behind you is not just your gray pile of shame. Then you carry all those brands.
It is. I like to say I have the ultimate pile of shame. You have, and this is after the convention when we sold out of almost all of our product. At least half of our product was gone for some brands. Other brands, 80% of their product was gone. So we've got Aradia on the top here. Then you've got a bunch of Chimera models that I still need to organize. We have Michael Contraro, Scientific Models, Stella Argentis, and Oliver Spath. And then we have a bunch of other paints. So this is just one of the warehouses. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then get to haul that every single time you have a convention too. Like,
yeah, thankfully,
the balance there, I think, is not having too much, or having it staged where you need it.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I have affiliates to do that for me, so I don't have to work that hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said you had three of you were working there primarily. Was that enough? Do you need more people?
No, I definitely did need more, and I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think this next year I want to bring on one, maybe two more affiliates. I'm not looking at bringing on more than that, but maybe one, maybe two more affiliates to just kind of grow the brand a little bit, grow some awareness. I think what we've been doing is great, and I think it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, it was awesome. With just the three of us, we were able to manage it, but then there was like nobody could take time away. And cut it down to two. And if somebody did, you felt it right away. Cause it was just, I mean, the lulls, if we could say that, cause like people would come in and burst, right? Some tournament round would end or some classes would end. And so then like the surge of people would come in through the vendor hall and that would last really long. And the lull you got was like 5-10 minutes, maybe. And then another surge would happen. So, and you have to think about a lot of stuff, all these products on display. You don't want people breaking things. You don't want people running off with things they didn't pay for. So like you have to keep your eyes on everything all the time while still talking to somebody. Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind, we were supposed to have 5 Italians that were supposed to be helping us, but I think that it's different when it's not your booth and you can treat it more of a vacation.
Would it be safe to say that once they saw that this was your booth and you were going to run it your way, they decided to go experience the convention?
That's exactly what they did. They were happily doing shots and drinking beers at 10 a.m.
I was going to say the moment the booth would open in the morning, they were walking up with beer in hand.
Yep.
They were going to sit at a table. They were wandering around. Now, Francisco in particular teaches a lot. So he was doing that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, there also may or may not have been Jell-O shots involved, which I may or may not have participated.
And our source will remain secret. He actually goes by Jell-O shots. So yeah. No, so that was definitely very different for you. And now it's funny is like Adepticon is like this end of one like miniature fiscal year, start of another.
That's a good way to put it.
And because it's now that LVO has moved to October, Adepticon's really the first big event in North America of the year. And it's, of course, one of the biggest miniature conventions, period. And so a lot of people know how their year is going to go, kind of with how Adepticon goes.
Based on how Adepticon goes. Yeah, because that sets you up for the rest of the year. I mean, I am scheduled to be at 5 other conventions for this year, but Adepticon is definitely the largest. And I can definitely understand that because our hobby is a luxury. It's a hobby. It's not a necessity. It's not food. It's not shelter. It's not clothes. So it has its ebbs and flows depending on that year, especially the economics behind that year. If it's an election year, our sales are down. If the economy is not great, our sales are down. So while I think we did really well this year, I think economically it is showing a lot in our hobby. So this year will still be interesting. Now, I think that what I can do with that year, even if sales are down, is just focus on other aspects of the business, see what other lanes I can grow into, see what other products I can bring to these conventions. I don't think that there's going to be a dull moment. There just might be a little bit of a lull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so what did you, Brian, returning as an attendee, how was this one different from, say, year one in Milwaukee or just Adepticon?
Well, it was weird, right? So I felt like the convention wasn't as packed this year, especially like outside. Maybe that's just because the attendance numbers don't support or exceed the venue's capacity. The people surrounding the convention were mostly like non-existent. They were all contained within, right? You go inside and it was like, oh, this is busy, but like I sat outside on the bench for a while for like lunch, and it was just like, this is really quiet and peaceful and nice, like there's also like there's other things going on in the city, and I feel like most people I saw were like commuters and people like going to lunch. Like the convention was very centralized, which we never had at old location. Old location, like that entire hotel and convention center was just the only people there, and around it were people for the convention because it wasn't big enough. This one, I think there's a lot of room to grow. A lot more people can be packed in. Like when you think about like Gen Con, for example, which is not that far away anymore, by the way. Like from, especially if you're coming from where Adepticon is now, like it's not that far away. It's much more reachable. The number of people that attend that fill the city, right? They fill Indianapolis. Like the whole city shuts down basically for that convention. And like you walk on the street, the streets are packed.
It's why they had to move it to an earlier date, because it used to be later in August, early September, and so like preseason NFL football had started, and so you would have Lucas Oil Stadium packed with 40,000 Colts fans, and then Gen Con going at the same time, and they were like, we can't do this. The whole city is just in gridlock. Two different groups of nerds are here with their face paint, and so. They got along though. I don't know if you remember that, Hyena, but it was like we'd be downtown with the Gen Con folks, and then these football fans would come out, and they weren't mean. They would just be like, "What are you guys here for?" You'd tell them, and we'd be like, "What are you there for? You're all in your costumes." They're just wearing jerseys and face paint, and we're wearing elf ears and whatever. So it was like two nerd groups could relate. But now Gen Con got so big. Now there's 65,000 people per day, and so they had to like move it to a different part of the month so those don't overlap, because now they even use the stadium for part of Gen Con.
Yeah, a big part of like the Wizards of the Coast stuff at Gen Con was hosted over in the stadium. Like all the Magic and all the D&D new book that came out at the last Gen Con.
Yeah, the fifth.
It was all almost remote site. Like it's attached via parking lot, but it's not in the convention anymore. You're up inside of like the club level, ring basically, going to all your vendors. It's a little strange.
And it's neat.
But
go ahead.
But as far as Adepticon goes, I don't think we've reached that point yet. We're still a hermit crab that hasn't grown into its shell, right? We're not ready for its next shell yet.
I think I would completely agree with that. I mean, I loved that there was more space. I loved that there were a lot more vendors this year. Definitely double over what there were last year. But I agree with Raina that it did feel a little bit slower than the previous Adepticons.
I certainly think, well, it's funny is like, and that it could be a perception thing, but I guess we'll get some numbers soon to find out for sure. Because I remember Hyena and I talking about when we would go to Adepticon when it was in Schaumburg, and we were at like 2018, 2019, and we were already like, just can't fit in this place anymore. But they still did it through like 2024. So they had the 2 years where it was down during COVID, and then when they brought it back, it had like a lower attendance, but it was still too crowded in there. And then the next years it was ridiculous. You just couldn't move around anywhere. Gen Con, feels a little like that in the vendor hall, but you're right. Adepticon last year, the layout was exactly the same as Schaumburg. And so it felt like Schaumburg. You were packed. The vendors had no room. People were walking shoulder to shoulder, except out in the greater convention hall area, which is a much bigger event hall. They completed the renovation for Exhibit Hall E this year. And that all of a sudden, a bunch of food stalls moved down there. All the seating area moved down there. GW moved more out into that area. They moved the tournaments out. They added 2 rows of vendors. So I think there was much more square footage for people to move around. So it was less crowded, but it could also be, you know, attendance might have been a little down, but I guess we'll find out.
I do think so.
Like we say with the economy, right? Like the economy very much affects how much people have to spend, and
and when you get
travel and air travel, I mean, we had issues with that. Like,
and when you get changes, especially in short order, to things like, well, now this costs or is a fee that's very different than it used to be. Now there's a travel advisory because insert conflict happening somewhere. Like now that changes things. But one thing you talked about, Hyena, that was an interesting observation is people were also condensing a little less. Some of the people that I follow even on Instagram who were visiting Milwaukee from overseas or whatever were taking a lot of time to go to other stuff in the city. They were going to museums, which there's quite a few. They were going to hockey games because the local team, the season's coming to an end, and they were out doing that stuff. And so it didn't seem as crowded around the Baird Center. Maybe the weather was also stunning day one and then sucked after that.
No, I took some time to go explore too, just because it's a new city, it's a new place. I'm not familiar with everything. Like, what does it have to offer? I mean, we went to a mall, we went to one of the local game stores, we went down to the lake, we went all over the place. You know, like there's a lot more to do because it's a much bigger place. It's an actual city, you know.
Even then, that's why I would say that the numbers were definitely down, because you think about what happens every single con. Right after the con ends, right after the vendor hall ends. I mean, every single restaurant within a 5-mile radius is just jam-packed, full of sweaty nerds. And I didn't really have that issue this time. I mean, I made reservations ahead of time because I've learned my lesson. But even then, I'm like, there's just not that much here.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot more places to fill up. Like there's a lot more seats, and we didn't fill them all, which I'm excited about. I'm excited for the growth. I'm excied to have it be more. You know, like now that it can be.
And while Chicago is a much larger city than Milwaukee, the Adepticon was always out in a suburb, and so it would be in Lombard, it was in Rosemont, it was in Schaumburg, and those didn't have a bunch of stuff right around the convention center. So either the convention center was packed because that was the only place you could do anything, or you had to go 20 minutes somewhere else. In Milwaukee, it's like, well, you can walk a few blocks in 360 degrees and find a bar, a restaurant, a something to see. And so I think the people attendance, whether it was up or down, had many more places to spread out to so close by.
That's possible. And there is going to be a lot of growth. I'm really excited for next year and the year after that, because it seems like Adepticon has a lot of plans to continue the growth. I know Nova does as well, and that's happening later this year. Meeplethon with Lavender Brush is also starting to get some notoriety in our little industry.
And that one's in Kansas City.
Yeah. And it sounds like I'm going to be there as well. I'm going to be sponsoring Meeplethon. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well,
so you went from just new to the painting hobby, working behind a booth, helping nerds out, to not sure what you were doing, year 2, to I'm going to work behind a booth and maybe, distribute all these Italian brands. And it was a booth that was unfortunately just one table with no labels tucked away in a like bathroom stall equivalent. And then, and now this year you're like, I've got a 20 by 20, I've got 7 brands, and I'm going to be at like 40 cons this year. Like,
I mean, I saw Dracoya on the front of the convention hall banner.
Yeah. I splurged pretty heavy for marketing because we were in the back of the convention. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew where to find us. I I think that it was a great year. So this year I'm focusing a lot on conventions. I'm also really focusing on sponsorships. I am so lucky because I have been an avid fan of Oliver Spath for a long time. I've also been a massive fan of another creator called Nerixon, and I've been a fan of both of these. Now, Oliver Spath, I am now distributing for because he's in the UK, and it's incredibly hard for anybody to ship anything to the States now. And so he and I have created this awesome partnership, and I feel like such a fangirl. I'm like, wait, you actually want to work with me? That's crazy. And then Nerixon just made the post yesterday. He is going to be having a painting contest. There is going to be over $1,000 in prizes for every single tier. And there's going to be at least, I want to say it was like 9 different winners are going to be chosen from this painting contest. So if you guys are interested in painting, he's giving away all kinds of things. He's giving away 3D printers, brushes, gift cards, cases, models, paints. And I can't believe I get to sponsor him. That's just a wild dream. And then, oh my God, I got to hang out with Sergio freaking Calvo. What the hell? That was nuts. He is running a Kickstarter right now, and he also might need some assistance getting things here in the United States. I'm not really, what kind of fever dream is that? Like Sergio Calvo reaches out to me? What? You know my name?
He came over to, I remember he came over to the booth and chatted with you for a while, and he's a super sweet guy. Yeah. I mean, he's like our age, like, and he's starting his own. He used to just do mostly like box art for people. Now he's starting his own line of stuff, and so that's super exciting. And then he may or may not need your help, but that'd be a super cool name, you know. Yeah. Go ahead.
And he might be collaborating with me on some videos. That would be wild. I'm just, all these people that I've been a massive fan of for such a long time actually know who I am now. It was wild. At the booth, at one point, I took a picture. There was Borja, Eric Swinson, and Francesco Farabi all sitting at my booth, hanging out.
Well, yeah, and Eric Swinson, of course, I mean, Francesco's a guy who's a legend, who's been around forever. He's won those lifetime achievement awards for his painting ability. He doesn't really
ever need to compete again.
He doesn't do competitions anymore now. Like he's just artist. Eric Swinson, of course, is like a modern era legend.
Right.
Everybody knows him. The Europeans even regard him as one of the top 1% painters. Borja, of course, has been a recent Titan of Golden Demon. He's won several of them now, and he usually just brings one. He was the Slayer Sword winner last year, and then he got finalist, I think, at Essen for a piece that he did a very stylistic way. It was his Ionis Cryptborn on Dragon, I think. And then this year he entered in the dual category with his Magnus and Logan Grimnar.
Yeah.
And
he sat and finished it at the booth and got
he had
gold.
that piece at our booth. He was kind of doing it in secret, like pulling it out of the box and adding some snow here and there and touching some stuff up. But it was an enormous piece of work. And he was a super cool guy to sit and talk to for a while as well. But yeah, all of those guys were just there hanging out at the booth, which was great. It was, I don't know, it was like for a sports fan, going to the Major League Baseball All-Star game and you happen to be in the dugout with all of them. So it was, it was pretty wild. And side note, and we can talk a little about Golden Demon. I know we really didn't get to spend much time looking at it, but Borja's pieces has got a lot of the community questioning. I was listening to some Europeans wondering what his process is. And the reason is because he does these giant, you remember the one he won the Slayer Sword with last year, the Stormcast Eternal on the bird, and like,
oh yeah,
incredible piece. And then the Ionos Cryptborn, and now Magnus. So he does these huge pieces that are hundreds of hours of positioning, resculpting, building the base, and then hundreds more hours of painting. And so I heard a couple of Europeans like, do you actually think that he doesn't start his piece until Golden Demon's over? Or does he have all of these going and just as they finish happens to line up with respective Golden Demons? Because
Well, I mean, some of them have to have been in time crunch because some of them have like that he submitted have been released within the year,
Mhm.
right? Like Magnus obviously was
He's
released
been out for a long time.
7, 8 years ago, whatever. But like the Morgriff model that that one was within 9 months of it being released, was submitted in one Slayer Sword. The Andros Crimporn was shortly before that, I believe. So a little bit more than a year, but that first one, yeah, it was like a 9 month turnaround.
I mean, if that's all
So
you're doing, then I guess you could.
Yeah, if he's doing that full time every day, I guess, but that is still impressive to have
Yeah.
that amount of work. I mean, I was rushing to not even really finish one Middle Earth piece, so I'm not sure how some of these guys do that. But
Well, Llama, in your defense, like I have you on so many projects.
it's true. It's true. You're a strict boss. It's all right.
some might say a taskmaster.
I have ADHD, and so I have 1,000,001 Post-its. I have a whiteboard that's covered in Post-its, and every other day I'm like, oh my God, we got to remember to do this thing. And I put it on a Post-it and I throw it at him. And then I'm like, oh, well, hang on, I need this other thing. And I put it on a Post-it. And the next thing you know, his work area is just covered in Post-its.
Well, yeah, because it's like, I don't know how to describe. I don't think like that. So it's new to me, but it's once she puts it on a Post-it, to her, that means it's as good as done. And so she starts the next idea in her head. And so she'll be like, I'm going to give you a Post-it for this idea I'm thinking about now. And I'm like, well, I've got these 9 that I'm working on. It's like, what? Why? I'm not thinking about those anymore. Here's the next one. And so, yeah, it just grows.
But then also, why didn't you finish your Golden Demon? What were you doing? Seriously.
Which I have I think a fun Golden Demon story. It won't be for this episode. I'm planning on doing something where I paint and talk about it a little bit, because this was one of the more unique Golden Demon experience / non-experiences for me, for sure. But I wasn't discouraged by the results.
Let's just say, though, spoiler, it's not the first entry that you've taken to a convention and then broken hours beforehand.
It is not that I've broken, and so it was essentially incomplete. And one of the things for people who wonder out there who are listening, I've talked to a lot of the artists and even some of the people who have worked as guest judges, like Eric Swinson, like Richard Gray. And now I don't know them, but I've talked to them. And there's a lot of myths about Golden Demon, that the judging is they want it to look like an heavy metal style. Well, you can pick any category and look at the 3 winners and see all 3 of them are different styles. 40K Large was a great example of that. You had Katarzyna Gorska did her Catan Shard of the Nightbringer in a style that belongs to nobody except her, because her style is absolutely recognizable. And then someone did a Sentinel that was completely weathered and beaten and was like the reverse of edge highlighting. It was edge wear. And then you had the winner in that category. I'm trying to remember who won that one. But yeah, same thing. Very different style. And so even just within that category, 3 different styles. 2 of them, by the way. Oh, the winner was the Orc War Boss on the Squig thing, which was done by NRM Paints, for people who follow him. Phenomenal painter, one of my favorite. All 3 of them used very different styles. Kaha, of course, played with color, vibrancy, non-metallic metal. That Sentinel was so grim, dark, and gritty and muddy, and used true metallics. And then NRM's Orc Boss riding a Squigoth thing had non-metallic black armor, but then all the actual metal pieces were true metal. And he used weathering and texture to show skin versus leather versus metal. So like 3 wildly different styles, none of which would line up with heavy metal, and those guys won. So I think the myth that it has to look like that is just, and then of course you look at the Slayer Sword winner, which I think there were 5 or 6 of the gold pieces that could have won. I mean, the Bretonnian Pegasus Knight, that could absolutely have won the sword.
I really liked that one.
Compositionally, it was stunning. The way
it was too smooth.
You know, I wondered.
That's
So
why I
he
didn't get
did.
it.
I heard from someone that he did the entire piece in oils, and but it's like he had the waves going this way, the pillar going this way, and then the night like this. Compositionally, it was beautiful. There was weight behind the water. You could hear it almost
Mhm.
by looking at it. I mean,
Mhm.
there were so many really cool pieces that could have won. It was interesting to see a diorama win the sword, though. Like it's almost always a single or large figure.
We
Like
had
so,
the Kraken Slayer Gargant win the sword,
that
which
was
was
a
also a
duel, right?
duel.
That was a
Yeah.
duel, yeah.
But that year, I think Duel and Diorama were the same category.
It might
Is
have
that
been.
right?
Well, they did that
I don't know.
one
They
year.
switched a couple times.
People really didn't like it, and they switched them back to separate,
Yeah.
which is fine because you could see the difference. Andy Wardle, of course, had a great piece in diorama, and that's the only reason he didn't get gold there was he lost to the Slayer Sword winner, but
Mhm.
his piece could have absolutely won. He did a lot of sculpting, and so people wondered if it'd be DQ'd, but he built the wolf off of the Gloomspike gets character who's on the wolf.
Oh, you're right. Yep. The
Yeah.
base of that wolf is totally the named character wolf.
Yeah, and then he took the head from one of the Soulblight Gravelords, and and then he did some sculpting on the fur to make it even. But it was like beautiful piece that he could have. I don't know. It was a really great competition. I didn't get to go up and look at the case really at all.
No.
It was just. It was, in fact, the only time I was even up there was when I was literally running and cutting in front of people to turn in my piece before noon. So I didn't get to look because I love looking at them in person, but yeah, really phenomenal stuff. I don't know if you got to go up and look at it at all.
I mean, every time I was around to go up there, it was just so busy that I didn't have time to sit and just study what was going on because I mean, I had a kid with me, so I couldn't just go in the middle of the night to go look when it was lull. So I was there in mostly like the peak hours, and I got some looks in, especially when the judging was wrapping up. I was able to see kind of the contenders be separated from the rest to see what was likely going to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I could have gotten so much more time just to sit and study the pieces.
I wish I could have gotten time at all. So that's another reason I'm really trying to find at least 2 more people to work with, because next year I would like to, I don't know, go to the bathroom, have a drink of water, walk 10 feet away.
Yeah. Look at a single vendor stall that's not your own.
Just one. Just one.
Because even when it was like when she did want to buy goodies, it was literally like, all right, Llama, you have 1 hour. Here's petty cash. Go buy some stuff. And so that was like our run. I ran straight to one place and then
Yeah, I got a new Blood Bowl team. So
she got
maybe
the
I'll be doing
Calador
that.
Dragons, the new high elf one.
Yeah, the really cool mix. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said Kaha, because so I don't know if anybody knows this, but as well as taking lessons from Llama, I'm also taking lessons from Kaha.
No.
And obviously these are 2 completely different styles of painting. But I really love Kaha's use of color, and everything just looks so rainbow and dreamlike and technicolor, whereas Llama's has a lot of vibrancy, consistency. It has a lot more realism in it, but it brings out all these different pieces. I really like his composition, the composition that he always has when he paints. And so I'm hoping that maybe my style going forward will be something in between the 2 of those. But who knows what I will evolve to be when I grow up.
Well, and Kaha's style has evolved even since she kind of burst on the scene. Like it used to be wild color that always looked like it was someone standing outside nighttime near a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Because it always looked like that reflected water sort of pattern where she kind of ignored the details of the figure and just did what she wanted.
She ignored the shapes of the model.
Yeah.
There was a lot of freehand on flat parts that just kind of ignored the shapes that were already there.
Yeah.
She didn't play with them. They just kind of
So she
You
finds
know,
a direction that she wants things to move, and
Mhm.
regardless of the piece and what is in the piece, that is the direction everything moves. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what the piece consists of. You pick a direction and you stick with that direction.
Well, and you know, there's been times where it like hasn't worked as far as what the Golden Demon judges look for. Or I remember she did one that was like salamanders, but even Hyena and I were looking at it, it's like, well, the arrangement of this doesn't make sense because these characters don't belong together. But then she comes back with these two pieces this year, and
Yeah.
they were perfect for the design. Like the Catan
Mhm.
Shard of the Nightbringer, I think when anybody on planet Earth saw the release of that figure, it's like, oh, Kaha's got to do that. That is
Right.
the shape of the piece is just her style. And so go figure, she painted one like that and brings home a demon. So I know it's a little granular, but did you have any favorite pieces, Paina, from what you looked at? I know there were some like in the epic scale or the Tau one, if you look at it close,
I mean, that one
inside
was
the
fun.
installation bay, there's a janitor cleaning up a spill. Like I love that little
Yeah,
attention to
that one was a
detail.
lot of fun. I mean, my favorite pieces are not ones that are too technically good. I like to
Oh,
have
okay.
I like to have more going on, right? Like I really liked the diorama bronze where they're just kind of like investigating because it tells a story.
Oh,
I
yeah.
liked that, you know. I really liked, yeah, like the Tau one. But there were a couple that one that is like I'm not a fan of. Like I didn't really like bronze duel, which was the one of the vermin lords. It's
Oh,
not,
killing the bird dog thing.
you know, it's not. I don't know. It's like it looks too airbrushed. It looks too smooth. There's not enough, you know, actual visual detail. Like especially in the
You like
pictures. Like
noise.
the pictures really smooths it out. And it's
You like
like,
noise, Hyena. You like visual noise. You like seeing the
yes,
brush texture.
absolutely.
Well, and
Yeah,
you know, that's
because
one
like
of-
as like you can be really, really good with a brush and make things so smooth where it almost looks fake. You know, it's like this. You know, you look at a photo and like you didn't. That's not painted. It's too smooth. You know, I don't like that. I think that takes away from it. Like you made it too smooth. You know, like I want to see that it was painted. I want to see brushstrokes. I want to see some, you know, some artist's flair in there. You know, I don't like it when it's too
Well, you
clean.
know, and that's one of the things about seeing them in person as opposed to always seeing them online or, you know, Instagram or on GW's website is like when you walk around and look at them, or even better, if you get to hold them in hand, or like Borja had his piece out of its case in front of us, it's like then you see the artist touch.
Mhm.
You can tell how they did a thing. And even if you're not there as a painter, when you can see how it's done, it's like inspiring. It's motivating to know that,
Mhm.
okay, well, let me try that. You know, some of my favorite pieces, like that old world gold, the Bretonian was, it's funny. You talked about the third place, was it diorama that had the Death
Mhm.
Watch, the Inquisitor, um, and it was, so that artist who did it entered it last year at Adepticon, and it didn't win it. It got like a notable pin. He went to literally everybody he knew and asked for their feedback, and then radically changed the piece based on it. He took criticism, I guess. It sounds like a champ. Redid the piece based on all of that feedback, entered it this year, and then got his first Golden Demon. So,
That's amazing.
and
That's exactly how you should do it. You should be getting feedback and advice from multiple sources, which is why, even though I respect Llama as a teacher and as an artist, he's not the only one that I'm taking classes from.
right.
You have to take advice from multiple sources. Otherwise, you will be stunted.
Yeah. One of my favorite pieces is one that wasn't flashy at all. It was the gold winner in the Age of Sigmar Warcry Underworlds unit category. And Lucas did that Nurgle. Now it's just 3 models from the Darkwater Warhammer Quest box set, which are very popular. But
Mhm.
if you examine them up close, you'll see so much more nuance. Like he put verdigris in those shoulder plates, but he didn't overdo it. It doesn't overpower it. He put
Mhm.
rust on it, doesn't overpower it. In fact, color-wise, it all works. And if you look at those bronze armor plates, that's non-metallic metal, yet it looks absolutely like true metal. It was such a different look compared to how vibrant so many of the pieces are that go into Golden Demon, and yet all the contrast is there, texture contrast, color contrast, but also color harmony. little Nurgle symbols all over the base, like it's the garden kind of thing. I think that piece was one of my favorites. And the third place in 40K single, the bronze winner, was Alexi doing that custodian guard with his jet bike.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his first Golden Demon win. And that piece, for one, he did rose gold in one of the most convincing ways I've ever seen with the non-metallic metal. It is very moody. It's a lo-fi in terms of, or low key in terms of its value, and yet doesn't disappoint when it comes to vibrancy at the highest level. That leg positioning that you see there is how he got the bike to be free floating. So if you notice, that jet bike is free floating; it's not standing on. And the way he did that is he used this really thick brass rod that he ran up the leg that's planted on the ground, through the leg that's positioned there, and then into the bike. And so it's supposed to be basically unbreakable, but it sounds like just a couple days before he broke it. And so he fixed it, and him breaking it turned out to be a little blessing, because it sounds like when it broke, he then touched up a bunch of areas that maybe looked a little weak. And he came back with this piece, which I think could have won gold in the category. It's so cool image wise. Not to take away from Neil Hollis's Space Wolf, which was just flawless. Which again, it shows this different style you can use, because those two pieces are done in a very different way.
Right.
So yeah, I know we were going to turn this into a Golden Demon review, but I can't help but talk about super cool painted minis. You know, like Aaron,
no, I want to say the silver in that category might have been. I mean, it wasn't just Neil Hollis's. Like the Fugan model is pretty extraordinary too.
The Bob Cahoon one. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I want to say that those are probably in the correct order.
Well,
I mean,
you know,
you kind of run into the risk though of, like, when you've got so much going on, anything not done perfectly detracts, right?
Yeah. Anything you add,
I mean, we've ran into that with composition in pieces that have been submitted, where it's like, if you've got too much going on, all of it is held against you. You know?
Yeah. So if anything you add to your competition piece has to make it better. Otherwise it's going to do the opposite. So that was a part of my experience, which again, I'll go into another time. But yeah, that Fugan or Fuegan, however he's pronounced, that you described there, what's neat about that is he broke up the red with like orange, or vice versa, which seems like it wouldn't be a big shift, but the red on him is actually a touch cool. It like leans ever so slightly rosy pink, and then goes out to those burnt edges, and then the orange is super warm. That was a neat way to break up what could be a very visually monotonous model. So anyway, that was our we touched on Golden Demon a little bit, even though I didn't think we would, but you know, it's one of my favorite things. I didn't really get to go look at much, so it's kind of, but
next year, I promise we'll hire more people. If I don't have a couple of different people like come up to me and attempt to try and work with me, I might throw out a couple of applications. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, for sure. Marco Frazzoni's take on Festus was also really interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, like because there's like the surreal kind of like basing method, right? Where it's like you're not actually in a thing, right? Like the Age of Sigmar single, right? The one that won the little like chaos, the Zinch Lord on the Stormcast Beast.
Yep.
Like the base of that one is just a black disc, right? Like it's mounted on a non, decorative
not a scene,
base,
right?
Right. Whereas like a lot of them, your base is a scene. That one is saying, I'm not even gonna have a base. Here's the slime of the monster, and it's the floating aspect of it is just a really cool take on presenting the model to you without actually needing to base it in reality, in like a real world location.
Yeah,
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, and we got a second one in the open category, and it ended up in open because he sawed the worm in half, so the back end is just like cut off. But he went the opposite. He simplified Festus. He removed the tongue from the belly. He removed all the extra doodads around him and just brought it down to just Festus. And it was done
almost like making a bust out of the model. I mean,
Yeah.
we have seen that with was it
Glutos.
Glutos, where you ice cream scooped out the character from this giant, it's a very large model with basically a diorama on top of it built in.
Yeah.
You just scoop that character right off of it and make it its own isolated, paint piece.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, it really, really neat stuff to see. Blood Bowl gets more and more fun as a category. People just go ham with the goofiness. I mean, the winner was no surprise, but it was like, you look at that Nurgle team that got second, and he's got a Nurgling that's wearing a football helmet, another one that's got a jersey on, like just having so much fun with that stuff. Yeah, no, it was great. I look forward to competing in that in the future. I'll always love participating in that one. But are you going to enter next year, Dracoya?
God, no.
What?
I'm not good enough. I know everyone's like, oh, just do it. And I love that, but I really like winning. Like I bought a Blood Bowl team last year, and it was one of the Chaos Dwarves or one of the dwarves. I really loved them. They were so cute. And so I was gonna play, and I was gonna paint them, and it was gonna be great. And then I found out that they changed the rules, and a different team is now kind of on top. So what did I do? I screw the dwarves. I want the winning team, and that's. I don't play unless I feel like I can win. And I don't think I'm there yet. There are other competitions that I probably will enter. Nova's Capital Palette, for example. I think I'll probably enter that. I think that there's Lavender Brush. I'll probably enter that. But Golden Demon, if I'm lucky and things go well, maybe 2027. We'll see how many lessons I can siphon out of Llama here.
Well, I was going to say, you work with Kaha sometimes, and it depends on how much practice you really do between now and then. I mean, you could scale up to where your best piece you feel so good about that you're like, all right, I'm putting it in there. But some of these other ones that you talk about, the Lavender Brush, the Capital Palette, those are interesting because they're a little more open format where it doesn't matter so much the brand that you're working with as far as the model. The categories are they usually often have like a beginner level and a master's level. So there's different ways for people to enter. And then it's a more like merit-based judging system, which I have my thoughts about, but I'm okay that some competitions do that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're going to go to those and you've got time to crank out a piece, you've from the looks of that bust when you had it there at the booth, your game has gone up. So
that's something that I have noticed since the last 4 years. I was thinking about it when you were saying this is my 4th year. I can't believe it's already been that much time. But every single year that I paint, I don't paint a lot. Like the overall hours that I put into painting is embarrassingly low. But that doesn't mean that the amount of study time I have is embarrassingly low. Just because I'm physically not painting as much as I would like doesn't mean that I'm not studying and learning and listening and looking at videos and tutorials and YouTube and talking to people. And I mean, I'm very picky about who I follow on my Instagram page, because my focus when I look at my social media and I scroll through is I really want to see people that I feel will challenge me to that next level. And I'm not going to get that if I'm not following the appropriate people. And so I follow a lot of people that I think will challenge me, and I can take that lesson and I can study their piece. And I think that's allowed me to grow exponentially fast, even though I haven't spent as many hours into it.
Yeah. And Hyena, you participated in a tournament, right?
I did a couple things. I did a couple narrative events. The winning didn't matter in my events. It was just play for fun. I did very well, regardless, just because how you do it.
That's how you do it.
My last game I played came down to a 1 wound swing. the last model, so I played against, it was Mega Gargants, is who I played against. He got down to 1 wound remaining on his last model. And there were 4 times when I did variable damage. And I just needed to do just more than minimum. All 4 sources did minimum damage.
No.
And so if any of those 4 would have done 1 more, I would have tabled him and I won the game. But instead, he survived with 1. He was able to rally because he was out of combat, healed a bunch. I didn't have the resources necessary to finish him off. So it was that squeaky close. And the only unit I had remaining was a unit that was a reinforcements. It didn't start in my army. I brought it in a half strength unit, came back from reserve because I had gotten wiped out, and so like he came back and they couldn't finish him off. It was so close.
Hyena, are you planning on going to any other cons this year?
I think I've got maybe 1 more I can swing. I'm not sure which one it's going to be though. So I've got big changes potentially coming, and so I don't know how much I can muster. But maybe 1 more. I think I try to get to 2 every year, so it feels kind of appropriate because I'm just a visitor. I'm not participating in it from the convention side, and I think it'd be easier to go to more if I were on that end of it. But
have you ever been to Nova?
No, I'm not. I had plans to 1 year and it didn't work out. So, yeah.
That one's interesting because it changed a little bit in terms of the presence of who's there. Like that was like Mike Brandt was one of the people who started it, if I'm not mistaken, and still like it has been in its history. It's a largely charitable event. Games Workshop's presence there has changed. They used to do a big preview event at Nova. They still run 2 massive tournaments, one for AOS and one for 40K. But now they don't do a preview event. They do like a spend a night with Games Workshop, and it's almost like you're at a bar doing a trivia night, which is kind of fun in its own way. But it makes me wonder what other preview events we have upcoming. We know they like Adepticon because it's such a big event. They want to stay at Adepticon, but they're otherwise just kind of doing their Warhammer Opens.
But keep in mind that they just moved to the DC area. So this is their very first year after that announcement. I think that there is a very strong possibility that something big will happen at Nova. Now, I also worry about Nova itself and how it's going to continue to be run as a convention because they seem to have, for whatever reason, a goal on maintaining the current numbers that they have and always being like this boutique vendor hall, which doesn't make sense to me. I'm really more of a grow or die person, but I don't know. I guess everyone's a little bit different.
Yeah, and it's funny is because like that time of year for a miniatures convention, it seems like they could use another big one. And so I say that because like, yeah, it's not long after Gen Con, but Gen Con's not miniatures focused. And it's not long before LVO, but LVO is not a convention as much as it is a bunch of big tournaments.
Well, so keep in mind that they're also competing with ReaperCon. I do not understand why ReaperCon and Nova decide that they're going to do it the same weekend, and neither of them will yield. But I don't know, more power to them.
Yeah, but we've seen that Nova is one of those that was growing rapidly. Now we know this year could look different for a number of reasons that'll come up later, but they do have room for growth, and but they seem to, like you said, they seem to want to stay in this facility they're in, and they want to keep this like 4,000 to 5,000 total people and just like 29 or however the number is vendors and never go. They like that. I don't know why.
I don't know. So now that Games Workshop is going to be in DC, I wonder if there's going to be a little bit more pressure from Nova to grow and maybe change a little bit. But I also think that if they were to grow more than what they are, they'd have to change venues. I don't know if it would be possible for them to not change venues. But I know that like they're even starting to have a couple of different vendor halls where some of the vendors are less popular. There's been a lot of controversy around Nova for many reasons. Yep. I mean, so I don't know if you guys have talked about it on your show, but have you guys talked about it on your show? Oh, okay. So there was a particular piece from last year that Nova decided to vote like best in show based on some of the judges. It was a judge's preference, and it was a very politically driven piece. My biggest problem with the piece was that it was just not technically sound. And then there's a lot of controversy because a lot of the people who are in charge of Nova say, well, this is art and politics should not be the same thing. Well, I completely disagree with you. Art and politics have been overlapping since ancient freaking Rome. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to change that now. You're not that cool. So I don't, right. So I don't mind that it was a political piece. I minded that it was not technically a sound piece, but I think that it had offended a ton of different people in the community, and I completely understand why they were so offended. And I found that there's a lot of people who are now boycotting Nova because of what happened and how it transpired. And I completely empathize with that as well. I know that my affiliate Jamie Daggers isn't going to be going because of how they mishandled this piece and the fallout afterwards. For the record, I don't have the same values that Nova has. I'm just going as a business, but I think that Nova in general is going to need to start changing a lot of different things that they're doing when it comes to how they're judging their capital palette, how they're setting out their vendors hall, how they're avoiding growth. A lot of different things I think need to be changed. Otherwise, somebody else is definitely going to swoop in and a bigger con is going to take over.
Yeah, so all of that, and coupled with what you started that with, you have two conventions that happen the same weekend. ReaperCon. Now, I think population-wise and location-wise, there's room for multiple cons in the U.S. At the same time, but limiting the growth is an interesting choice when it's clear a lot of people want to go. And even if there's like, let's say, a setback this year while they've got a change in leadership and people are upset, but eventually, if it keeps, people are going to come back or new people are going to go. And just like we saw with Adepticon so many times, you can't just stay in that same facility because it's what everybody knows. Like, you've got, let's say, 20 more vendors that want to show up. You're going to turn them away. You've got 1,000, 2,000 more people that want to go. You're going to turn them all away. Like, why not? You're right. At that time of year, someone might swoop in and just create a whole new thing. That's an interesting thought. And the other thing you touched on is, Games Workshop, if we remember, made that announcement on their community site that they are going to have a production facility in the DC area. Now, I don't know if it's going to be done this year. That might be a bigger impact next year, but their presence in the area will affect the miniatures community in the area. I mean, it's too big of a company not to. So,
I mean, people travel overseas all the time to go to Warhammer World, right?
Yep.
So why the heck wouldn't they travel all over the country just to go to DC and also Nova at the same time? Come on.
I mean, I could see them having their own Warhammer World US side.
I think that's
not coinciding with Nova.
I think that's what it's going to be called in DC. Is it's going to be another Warhammer World.
Yeah.
So
Warhammer World US or something.
It's just the fact that you're, within 25 miles of another bigger upcoming convention. Like, why wouldn't they try to push to have a presence and to have more attendance and more, sales, more money,
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought that is interesting. And we've seen that with a couple of conventions that I was getting booked for classes and you were getting to set up a vendor stall, and they're like, oh, we're capping our attendance to 500, or we're capping our attendance to it. And it's like, why?
Okay, why?
We have so many people coming. Why?
Yeah, we're going to another show, and I'm really excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's in Austin. It's in Texas, which is great, but it's also in Austin, and Austin's not
Texas, right?
Austin's not Texas. It's the redheaded stepchild that you're legally obligated to pay for, but it's not like you're not really related. That's
people
Austin.
Ask what city you live in. It's you say California, and then so you say what state. It's Texas, right? So it's like that's what Austin looks and feels like. But yeah, that's the Pigment Miniature Show. Or is that
Yeah,
the right
and
one?
I am really excited about it because it is Texas and I'm from Texas and it will be really exciting. But again, I'm like, well, you have all these amazing painters that are going to be at Pigment Miniature Show. First of all, you've got Llama, then you've got Kaha, you've got you have I've actually forgotten who all is going to be. Pretty much everyone who is anybody is going to be there. I think everyone other than Eric Swinson is going to be there. And everyone's going to be teaching classes. There's going to be exclusive vendors there. There's only going to be 12 vendors there, but they've capped it at 500 people. And their logic was they wanted to make sure they did their first year right, which I understand. You don't want to overwhelm yourselves too quickly, but 500 just seems so low.
It seems like safe, right? Like it seems like you're being too conservative about what you can handle. Like you're not gonna like struggle to fill up those 500 spots. Like
no, but I agree. It feels like they were being safe, which is respectable, but there's also a level of being too safe where you're basically just having bumpers when you're bowling. Is that really bowling?
Right.
I mean, you just showed up to the bowling alley, but are you bowling?
Are you really?
Do you want to just this coloring book? We'll let you sit in the corner. Like, yeah, it's a. But that said, it's still exciting. I mean, and if the first one goes well, hopefully they'll.
Then the next one, yeah. Well, and I've talked to some of the people who are organizing it, not to bash them because they are making their own decisions and they're all very busy. And I do think that they're doing a really good job at what they're setting up. They are being a little bit too cautious, in my opinion, but I think that overall Pigment Miniature Show might grow like 3 times in year 2 and then 3 more times in year 3. I know that they're gonna probably have the cap in year 2, probably in the 1,500 range. And then year 3, depending on how that goes, will probably be doubled again. So this could be another really big one. It's in July and there's no other shows really around that time that are miniature focused.
It's in early July. And I mean, even Gen Con, which again, not miniature focused, isn't until end of July, early August. So like, as far as in Austin, for flights is a relatively easy airport to get to, Austin Bergstrom. And then, by the way, they have a Warhammer Cafe now in Austin. Super cool city. It's a time of year when it's warm and there's food and barbecue. And so like, I just think
it's good. The food in Austin's great.
I think
one
that
of the best lobster rolls I had outside of Boston was in Austin. There's also like really good donuts there. Obviously the barbecue. I mean, I'm biased. It's Texas, but Austin is a really fun place to be. There's so many cool bars, so many sights to see.
Yeah. And I think that time of year, that location, it's got a chance to really explode. I would go to conventions all the time. I really like I wouldn't want to be like that person who's on the road 300 days a year or whatever, but I would go to like one convention a month if I could, you know.
Well, if we keep growing the way we're growing, you very well might get your way.
You booked me for a lot of classes, so
I did. I'm really proud of you. We've got a place in Houston that Llama might be teaching at. Also a place in Colorado. I'm not going to sentence Llama to going to Oklahoma, being from Texas, but I'll probably send somebody out there. I'm just not sure who's going to draw the short straw. Not me.
I would go if it's like not late April, early May. I don't feel like getting hit with an EF5, but like otherwise I'd visit, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, Llama's getting booked for probably something between 6 and 12 classes just this year alone. Adepticon was just the beginning. I booked him at another game store in Milwaukee. We are also expanding. We have a game store now in Chicago, as well as another one in Wisconsin and one in Omaha.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. The layout, back to Adepticon, as we circle things back, the layout felt very different in the main hall, which it's funny is I think we talked about that on the show last year, that we didn't really like the idea of the fact that they just mirrored Schaumburg.
Yeah, it was weird. It felt weird. It's like I walked into a portal back. You know, it's like it wasn't a different place. It didn't find its own identity yet. right? Like it wasn't its own place. It was the same. It was trying too hard to lean into, well, we're familiar with this. Let's put the same vendors out in the hall. We'll have the same layout inside. Like we'll send the VIP pickup. We'll go around through the vendor hall like we did. It's just you don't have to do that. You've got more space to utilize. You don't have to rely on what you did before. Use the new space. Do it more efficiently. And I feel like they did that this year.
Yeah, it looks like this was their first crack at doing that, and it was certainly better. One other thing I guess I could say that was different being on this side as opposed to on the attendee side was arriving there Wednesday, and now I'm coming in through the loading dock instead of going in to get my badge or whatever, and going
just the fact they let us ship our badges
is way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Now the line for the badges isn't nearly as long. But yeah, I'm coming in through the loading dock midday, and you've got all these vendors in there. And it's funny because the vendor hall's like blank. Like it's empty. You've got some rigging stuff starting to go up and some people starting to set up tables. It's a mad scramble. Everybody doesn't know what's in the boxes they brought. But all of the vendors were really helpful to each other. Like it was a case where someone needs an extra cart for stuff, and you saw vendor A and vendor Q like team up and load everything on a cart and go in there. Oh, you need a tablecloth? Hang on, I think we got another one. Like everybody was so helpful to each other in that regard. It let everybody set up pretty quick. And then it was same at teardown. Everybody was really helpful to each other getting in and out of there. So that was really neat to see it from that end as well. Just how much all these people know they're the same. We're all the same. We're all nerds.
Mhm.
Do this. They're not just random scrub working a job because they needed a job. It's like these people love this thing and what they do. And the setup and teardown are hard. It is hard. It's so much physical labor, boxes that you never knew you could pick up.
I feel like I need to train before next Adepticon. Like I got a gym membership the week after, which I guess is this week. I'm gonna start training so that next Adepticon, like I can lift things. Like, it's so physically hard.
It was, yeah, but that was really neat to see it from that side. And you could go around as a vendor and talk to the other vendors, and there was no like, what are you doing here? There was no like, they were just so welcoming and helpful to each other, which was great to see. So I don't know. That was it was very different, but I still look forward to Adepticon. It's still my favorite one.
Oh, and then there was another proposal this year. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was another proposal at the Turbo Dork booth this year. Yeah.
So last year, everybody might remember it was Sparks, who's a relatively known member of the community, was proposed to by her man, and I remember did all the rounds on social media in front of the Space Marine Terminator. That was last year. And so what was the one that happened this year?
This year, it was a couple of friends of mine. Blue-haired Sergio is his name, and then his partner, Bunny. He proposed at the Turbo Dork booth. It's very cute.
They set up a little thing just for it, a little shrine.
I don't know if it wasn't there, but I kind of feel like that's the new trend now.
I think that's going to become a trend. Yeah.
I need to start making more single friends and see if they want to propose at my booth,
Mm-hmm.
Give them a time slot.
Trying to get a bigger booth next year. Because one thing I did notice is that while the 20 by 20 was big and it had enough space, it still felt small. Like it's like I could use more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the layout goes a long way to that, I think, too. How you arrange the square footage matters.
As we
I noticed there was definitely a change between day one and day two that made it much more efficient. A lot more counter space. Call it surface area, right? Because you can get to multiple sides of the table instead of being,
we let people walk through.
Penned in here, and everyone else is on the outside. There was a lot more mingle potential.
Well, I think, and that's the thing from this end as a business owner is I have to be willing to learn and take advice from a lot of different sources once again. And you have to be okay with pivoting when you need to pivot.
What do you think about, I know we were talking about the layouts. What about inverting the U, making it so that you have to come in like a bay to see everything.
Oh, like this.
You know,
and
you
people come in,
funnel
right?
them in, yeah, to the center. It can work too.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, there's quite a few different things that we could do differently. I really want to work on having more display models out next year.
Mm.
I know that I have been working my ass off on painting. I've got a bust from Stella Argentis that I'm almost 99% done. And then I have another model from Chimera, the Nama model, this new demoness lady that they have out. I really love her. She's halfway done. And then I have Pumpkin Samhain from Aradia. She is going to be painted very soon. I have this like giant pile of shame behind me, and the good news is I have seven different vendors, so I have to stick with all of what I'm selling. But the good news is it's 7 different vendors, and I've got all these options. If I can't find something amongst all of these people to want to paint, I don't know what's wrong with me.
How much feedback are you able to provide to your vendors, like who your people that are supplying you, like in terms of like, oh, I think you should focus on this, you know,
It
kind of thing.
depends. It depends on the vendor. Some vendors are a little bit more open for certain things than others. What I have noticed about Europe as a whole, not just my vendors, but Europe as a whole compared to the US. So the US drives all of the sales in our industry. 80% of the sales that happen in the United States. And so, but there's a huge disconnect. And even though we've got the internet, you don't think that there should be, but there really is something about this time change and the pond. So, for example, if we decided in 2026 as America, who's driving 80% of the sales, you know, I really want to paint chibi clowns. That's my new thing. And that's what's starting to go viral. And everyone really loves this. Well, Europe won't pick up on that until like 2028. And then they'll start putting out chibi clowns. And there could be a bunch of reasons for that. It could be because they had projects lined up already. It could also be because they're just not really paying attention to the social media and they're actually just trying to run their business. There could be so many different reasons. But what I've noticed is that Europe always seems to be 2-3 years behind whatever is fashionable in the United States. So if we're into chibi clowns now, by the time they start coming out with chibi clowns,
you're still doing chibi clowns?
Yeah, we're really into fish now.
That's like the MySpace of miniatures, right? And we saw that with some. Now every con is like different in terms of what ends up hot when you're shopping at these vendors that have really unique and artistic pieces. But I remember one of the things you talked about where one of your vendors was like, oh, this model or this style, this range that I have is so popular in Europe. And you were like, that trend's not as big here. We want to do these other ones that are a little more timeless. And it ended up the case. The line that was brought didn't move that well. The rest of them moved super well. He was
surprised. He took me aside after the show and he's like, you know, Dracoya, I don't understand why this line didn't move. This is my best selling line in Europe. And I'm like, I know, but this isn't Europe. As I keep telling people, like, this is like Alice in Wonderland. Everything is very similar, but it's completely opposite. And I'm glad that he still chose to ignore me and bring the line that he thought was going to do best. Because at the end of the convention, when he saw that I was right, I think it has allowed me to gain some trust with my vendors. You know, this is still their business. They want to be really careful on how they represent it. They gave me a lot of feedback of things that I did well, things that I could do better. And so I really believe that next year is going to be even better. But I think now they trust me a little bit more to give them feedback of what is going to be popular in the United States market. And I think that's just going to have to come with time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you surprised them twice now.
Only twice?
Well,
yep, that's it. Just 2 times. That's
just 2 times.
Yeah.
So it's like I look at in 2025, when you just kind of stood at the booth with them, they saw your energy was very different than what they were used to because you were out there talking to people. You were coming out behind the table and talking to people, bright-eyed, vocal, getting people interested in the product. They were used to. I remember seeing a guy who ran, I think it was Yumikato or something, ran a video of here's what these conventions in Europe are like. And everyone's got this small, like 5x10 table. their hands are in their pocket. They're just standing there and they wait for you to come up to them. And then they're like, hey, and there wasn't that much like here. It was like your booth is visually loud and the person comes out and talks to people and demos things and gets people excited. And you were like that. And I think that surprised them the first time. And then, and then when you went to Nova, which you had a really small thing stuck in the corner near a fire escape, and like, and yet you moved the amount of product you did and needed a big order right after. And then you go to Adepticon and you move the level of, they see it is different. I think that's great that they're going to trust you more to move stuff in this market, because it is different. And then they can focus on what they do in Europe. Like,
exactly. And so the owner of Chimera kind of came to my defense in one of the meetings. We were meeting with 4 other brands as well, and they were all kind of piling up on me, let's say. And the owner of Chimera came in and they're like, no, guys, you've never been to a convention with Dracoya. You don't know what she's capable of. She is diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that that's the word you use to describe me, but also, but this convention, I think that they saw that. I mean, I do really try to meet people, and it's weird because I have the memory of a goldfish. I mean, Dory has nothing on me. And yet, whenever I'm at the booth, I will see people that I haven't seen in a year, 2 years, and I'll be like, oh my God, Sarah, how's it going? You know, how is school? I know you were going for political science and you had this job that you were lined up for. Like, how's that job going on? Oh, how's your mom? I have no idea where that comes from in my brain, but there's some kind of magic that happens at a convention where I remember everybody. And I'm glad I can do that. I don't know, I wish I could do that all the time. But I do try to be a little bit more personal than some of the other people that I have seen. I really want to make people understand that I am approachable. They can come to me for questions. They can come hang out. This isn't just a brand that I'm trying to represent. It's really a relationship.
And I hope that the advice goes both ways. I mean, they can provide you say, hey, I want you to do this, but you can also be like, hey, you should focus on this, because if you want me to sell your stuff, this doesn't do well, as you've seen with some, and then maybe if you can do this, it would do better. Like, one of the biggest things I know, that like you carry a lot of art pieces. Well, US isn't Europe, right? Art only goes so far.
I know.
Really cool looking things is one thing, but it's like, all right, but what could it be? What potential can I use it for? Like, I personally, I know I've done that. I've gone to places and been like, oh, this model's really cool. That could totally be a character for my D&D campaign. I'm going to paint it up for that. But you look at it, something like, Conquest or something, when that was first coming out, it's like, these models are really cool. Ooh, but they're 38 mil scale. That's way too big to use for anything else except for this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing. It's like, these busts and these larger scale models they're neat, but it's like, man, it'd be doubly neat if I could use it for something.
Well, so the thing about feedback is you have to be open to it. Just because your friend gives you feedback doesn't mean that you're going to be willing to listen, even if you trust your friend. I'm very fortunate that I think they are starting to trust me and my opinions of the United States market. And I am going back to them with my advice and my opinions and my feedback. What they choose to do with that is ultimately their decision.
Right. That's what I was asking. How good are they with receiving it? Because they're trusting you more. Like, you know better than they do because they're from Europe, and it's like it's a little different.
I think that this year is going to be really telling. Honestly, I understand why they maybe didn't trust everything I had to say in year one. They also weren't physically here to see everything that I was doing and what I was capable of. But year two, I'm really hoping that we can get more involved and be more aligned as far as their new releases. I want to make sure that this year, if they release anything, it's already here and available to the United States market. I don't want the United States market to fall behind as far as talent, as far as options and availability. But I do agree with you that we could work more on having some of these cool game pieces for people to play.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's the same model, but at a different scale, like how doable is that? Like if a lot of these things are being designed digitally, that's super easy, right? Like potentially, I mean, maybe the material doesn't allow for it, and you got to figure something out with that. But um, I mean, digital sculpting can be made at any size, really. You know, like maybe
Yeah,
it's not
more or
hard
less.
logistically. So,
It depends on the piece because a lot of the larger pieces are also so detailed that if you shrunk
mhm,
them down, it wouldn't work.
for
Well,
sure.
right.
I mean,
Like,
yes, obviously there be some kind of different like design idea behind it. Detail needs to be scalable.
But like
And maybe when it's larger scale, then you can put more detail. You know,
right,
whatever. But
a 32 millimeter version of it that has 20 or 30% less detail than the 75.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and we've seen, and not everyone can do like say Games Workshop does, where with their plastic they can do that, where they can make a Titan this big and yet it's packed
Well, for
with
sure.
detail. But we have seen that some of those figures in the smaller scale, Asteria, Obitus mounted, these ones, which you can tell would be very obvious stand-ins as a D&D paladin or as a chaos lord in Warhammer, or and people will buy those because you know that's what they're using it for. But I think one thing we've tried to do, at least with the YouTube efforts, is make people in the States less afraid of some of these art pieces and some of these art supplies. Because a lot of people here get started as a gamer first and then learn
Mhm.
art later, or they just learn shortcuts because of who they watch. And I found, at least when teaching classes and from working at the booth, when I started at a very, very basic level, like this is a paintbrush. And it was like starting from there, like then people were less afraid of the medium that they're using, and then they were willing to go grab a cool figure and do it,
Mhm.
treat it just like it's for the painting. And so that's one approach that I, as a peon under Dracoya, or as a teacher at classes, has tried to do. And then
Well,
you're
the
right.
new Velvet are making it
Yeah.
easy as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Llama and I have done a few different videos on the velvets for like non-metallic metal, and something that would take me 3 to 4 hours now takes me 45 minutes using the velvets. I don't understand what kind of magic and sorcery is in those bottles.
Yeah.
But they blend themselves somehow. I can't explain it. You have to try it. It's just
They're
something that you have to believe.
they're the right dilution out of the bottle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part too that a lot of people struggle with is getting the paint to the right consistency.
Yeah.
These lend themselves to being used very well right out of the bottle.
They move
I-
super well across the surface of the mini. They can give you as much saturation as you want, all the way down to panel lining, rust effects, washing, tinting, without having to do much to change it. And like when I sat there and learned to use them for a little while before posting some videos, before going to Adepticon, I just like said, I had messaged Francesco and messaged Dracoya, and it was like, these feel kind of like cheating, and not in the way that it's like using a contrast paint over a pre-shade or slap chop, but using traditional painting methods with them. They feel like they're like cheating. So hopefully that's helping people be less afraid of some of these big artistic pieces as well.
It's kind of like if our regular line, a contrast paint, a speed paint, and an ink all had a baby, it would be the velvets. I mean, for me, it's kind of like an all-in-one type of a thing. I don't know. I'm really excited to see more people use it and see what it's going to be capable of. I think it's a one-of-a-kind thing on the market right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of markets, I believe that's where one goes to pick up food, isn't it?
Usually, typically, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've
I
got
remember
one.
a song about some pigs. Some of them got to go home, and some of them stayed at the market.
They did. One of them went wee, but yeah. Didn't get to.
So, but I could go eat.
I could go eat.
Yeah, let's
I could
eat.
drink.